I've been a saddle maker since about 92. Done a little rawhide braiding. But I came to this class here at the NRS to further hone my skills, get some more knowledge, see what other braiders are doing. My favorite things are Rawhiders and Hondas, and my wife and I came down here. It's a beautiful facility, superb dinners and breakfast, and just really enjoyed being here. I learned different ways to prepare hides, dehairing, whether it be scalding or boiling, lime or ashes and broom. So that was really helpful.
I've been braiding for about 8 years. I just started braiding rawhide the last 5. I helped Clint Haverty and Lynn Yule get this gathering together. We did it 1 year in the past. We had a lot of interest in expanding it to more braiders, so we had to get a different facility beyond Clint's tack room. So the NRS here locally for us opened up their facility for us to use, so we had a lot more shop area to work on actual techniques of braiding instead of just talking about braiding. We also had facilities available here to stay right on the ground so we don't spend so much time going back and forth to lunch and more time on braiding. And a lot of people was able to come from across the country and even Europe this year. So I ended up coming to meet different braiders from across the country, expand my knowledge of braiding, also working with Barty fronts from Europe at my house while he's staying here. So I'm just trying to learn new techniques and also improve on the techniques I already know. I guess I came here to kind of show my main focus for this clinic on the first day was teaching people how to work with the actual function of rawhide versus braiding other materials. And we got a good group of people here to learn how to do everything from fleshing the hide, dehairing the hide in different methods. And I was here to show people some different ways to dehair hides, and we had some other specialists here to show how to cut up hides in different manners. And the important part of that is that's the material that you need in order to braid rawhide. You have to know how to prepare it, and some of these people haven't ever dehaired a hide or anything, and now that they learn these skills, they could go home and work on braiding rawhide versus nylon or leather or any other material. So I came here for that, but I also got to learn on I kind of specialize in Lasals and Rommel reins, and I'm wanting to learn about quartz. And so we worked on some of those buttons and I guess you would say finishing techniques this weekend, and so I got some stuff to go home to work on, and hopefully everyone else can kind of do more and expand upon it in the years to come. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about different types of dehairing methods. So to me, it's pretty important that the way, first of all, before you can ever get to a dehairing method, is it has to be skinned or pulled from the cow. And a lot of times, if I do my job on the ranch, I don't have enough cattle to die to be able to support my rawhide braiding. So, yeah, exactly. So I do use a lot of hides from the slaughterhouse, but I waste a lot of gas going over there, going through hides and coming home with nothing. And other times I'm blessed by the hide gods and I come home with 3, and I'm like, didn't I tell myself last time I'm only going to bring 1 home? Yeah. But you just can't pass that special one up. So A lot of times with the slaughterhouses, if you go back to the same ones, you might be able to build a good relationship with them, maybe be able to ask them to skin them a certain way or whatever, but it's inevitable that they're going to get cuts in the hides because they're just worried about protecting the meat. They're not worried about the skin.
Brett, got a question for you. So I've been in contact with a couple of slaughterhouses around me, and it's, I don't know, 45, 55 bucks a hide.
Mm-hmm.
So if I walk in and say, here's my 55 bucks, how am I going to know what hide to take?
The green one.
That's the purple or the yellow one?
Oh yeah, something like that. Well, I mean, it's kind of a preference thing. I hear a lot of Dave Klesper, who I learned a lot from, that passed away a few years ago. He is just like what Barty said. Everyone has these cowboy stories of salted hides that they're no good, and you know, he used to say this just to make fun of people: is, oh, it has to be a Jersey hide, 800 pounds, starved to death on the top of the cliff, looking the ocean with the full moon, and that's the only hide that's going to make a good riata. But if I waited for that, I've never seen that happen, so I guess I could never braid. So that's where I've tried different hides, and I just bring them home, flesh them out, dehair them, and start cutting them up and see what the hide says it is. I mean, this is a Charolais hide, and it's like a paper thin calf hide, and I've only had Charolais that are thick hide my whole life. And if I just judged this hide at the hide house, I would have never seen this good button type string. And I wanted it to be heavy string to make Cores and Hondas and stuff out of, but whenever I dehaired it, it wasn't what I wanted it to be, but I can't make it something it's not.
Nevertheless, it made half-band string.
Sure, exactly. So, I mean, some of it you might have to have. I probably processed 10 hides last year, and I finally got the one hide for what I was needing to make. But then I have 8 hides stacked up over there. But then maybe I can find a use for them for something else. So you can't always tell right there, but I take a hold of them and flip them over on the back, see what kind of fat they have on them still, feel how heavy they are. And a lot of times if you don't ask the boss, ask the guy skinning them, what was the dress weight, what was the kill weight, and then you kind of know if that animal is fatty. Sometimes they can tell you, this thing broke its leg out in the pasture and they brought it in, you know, or it was a fed out steer.
So what are you looking for? Are you looking for a fat cow, a thin cow?
It depends what you're trying to make, but also some people only take a red hide or a Jersey hide or whatever, and I just take a hide that I think is going to be a good even hide with not too much fat. I make black hides that you would think came off of a Charolais. I've had Charolais hides that look like it's, you know, off of a Hereford. I mean, it just depends. Everyone turns out different, and different processes of dehairing let the color be different too. So I just like to see if they don't have a bunch of brands or obvious like wire marks or whatever. You can't always tell it till you get home. So sometimes I'm disappointed when I get a hide done, all fleshed out and everything, but the only way to do it is just to try it, and it's kind of a guessing game, but you're going to have some kind of string you could have use for at some point in time. So if you're just wanting to go home and braid a set of reins, I mean, I might look for a little fattier cow. And obviously, if you dehair one, I mean, I like my strings a little heavier. I want something that's at least going to be like a 1/16 of an inch thick, leveled the first time, to be a good solid, you know, bozal string or whatever. But as far as just saying, I want to make this and go pull a hide out of the slaughterhouse and take it home, you just don't know. So I just look for the least marked up. I mean, the obvious is all you can control is it doesn't have brands all over, doesn't have a bunch of wire marks. You can lift up the hide. They're pretty heavy, so I don't spend too much time because I got to do this after work. It's 5 o'clock. I have a 45-minute drive home, and then I flesh it till 2 in the morning. So
every hide you get is going to be good for some sometimes somewhere as long as it's not all marked up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, I mean, you could kind of take those hides and flip them over and see how bad, if they cut them up, skinning them a bunch, you probably don't want to do it because it might be a big waste of time. And see if you'll see holes all the way through the hide, like along the wither or something. I mean, it's just going to be a waste of time no matter what color or what breed of cattle it is. So that's the only thing I can control the way I do it, is just look for big obvious points. And yeah, when you start fleshing it and it starts drying or you're dehairing it, you might see stuff pop up. But usually the big obvious stuff, shoots out at you at the slaughterhouse even. But I take all different colors of cattle. It's more like weight and how they died that I would try to pick. To try to have good, just to increase your chances of having a good hide. You can't control that it will or won't, and different processes, you change a little thing and it could come out a different way. So first I'm just going to show a few different things of skinning. If you do it yourself, you could take a little more time and take a little more meat off. You have to flesh them out a little more, but you're saving your hide. Or there's some guys that'll actually pull the hide, and I've never done it, but it kind of helps take that epithelial layer off, and then you don't have any knife marks because they just cut around the hide and pull it off. Whether you tie it to a tree and tie the cow to the tree and pull it off with a truck or a horse or a four-wheeler or whatever you want to do, but it'll just, whatever you can do to save the hide to start with is going to just increase the amount of good string you have. Then whenever I go home, I'm going to need to flesh it out. So, do you have a question?
Oh, flies bother me.
Oh, okay. Whenever you take it home, I try to power wash mine too. Just like Barty said earlier, whenever I have it on my fleshing beam upside down, if I've got a bunch of matted hair or cuckleburrs or whatever, the hide place, they don't care. They're just pulling that off to get to the meat. So I try to power wash them, and I'll right away. Plus, especially if I knife scrape it later or scrape it with stick and ashes, it's going to keep that hair nice and clean to clip whenever it dries. And then you're going to scrape it with your knife or with the stick and ashes. And also with liming or scalding, it kind of cleans all that dirt off the hair follicle anyways. So it's going to let that lime get in better, and it's going to dehair faster and let you get to your job faster. So taking that little extra time to clean it actually it takes time, but it speeds up processes later down the road. And then I just take them and go flesh them out. I mean, I probably do stuff the really hard way, but I put them on a fleshing beam and use a fleshing knife, a half-round fleshing knife. Take what I can with the dull side, and if I need the sharp side, I try to be real careful because I cut up quite a few hides digging into it, using the sharp side too using the sharp side too hard, trying to get it off and cut into the hide, just being in a hurry. So sometimes that slow way again is the fast way, taking your time so you don't ruin a bunch of that good hide. And I also found a little trick where I use catfish skinners and grab a hold of that thin layer of skin, and I keep a sharp knife, and I'll just keep peeling those layers of skin off. And sometimes those big fatty spots, you can just take and grab a hold of it and just take your sharp knife and peel it off and throw it in a bucket. Especially when I do hides in the cold, my hands get real cold, you can't grab it with your fingers. Those catfish skinners will grab a hold of that really paper thin skin and pull it away so it creates a bubble you can cut away. Something with power washing both sides of the hide, I also found that it'll kind of create a bubble in some of that thin layer of skin that you can get a hold of easier when you're fleshing with a knife. So power washing, it'll kind of create little water bubbles, and that's all skin that you're going to flesh off anyways. So I kind of have in mind what process I'm going to do. I flesh them all the same no matter what, but if I'm gonna lime it, I'm gonna flesh it clean so it penetrates real well. If I scald, I found that if you don't flesh it very well, it doesn't let loose of the hair very good. So I really take an extra time and just flesh it super, super clean to make sure it lets loose of all that hair over the whole thing. If you want to speed it up and you don't take the time and flesh it real well, then you spend that time scalding it. The hair doesn't let loose, then you got to go back with a knife, and that clear, pretty hide looks pretty weird with a spot that's like been rubbed on real hard with a knife and everything. So I think taking your time to flesh it real clean with any type of dehairing method is pretty important too, to speed up the dehairing later on. Yes.
The catfish
Skinners. They're catfish skinners. They kind of have a wide angle. You can get them at Walmart in the fishing section even. And I can bring them tomorrow. But it's just got a little spring and you push them together like this. And they're just like a plier and they have teeth that go like this. And they're what you cut along a catfish and you grab a hold of that skin and peel it off. They're not sharp or dull, but they kind of come to a point and they're not sharp, but you can grab a hold of that paper thin skin without harming the hide. But I could bring it tomorrow and stuff. I just thought everyone knew what it was. What's that?
You eat catfish?
Oh, I have. When I grew up in Missouri, I skinned catfish, but it's been a while. I work on a cow ranch now. I mean, don't have to eat catfish. No. But I could bring them tomorrow and show you what they are, and they're like $1.50.
So you're just grabbing hold of that slimy stuff that slips through your hand?
Yes, sir. And grabbing, I mean, especially in the winter when your hands are cold, but even in the summer, you can grab a hold of that, and you know, you're not trying to grab it with your fingers, and especially to do 3 big cow hides like that, I mean, it just wears your hands out and gets them kind of arthritic. If you can squeeze those pliers, are real soft on your hand, and you don't have to put a lot of pressure on them to hold that skin. So you can barely squeeze it and pull it out and go to cutting on it. And some, you know, to keep your fingernails short, you can't grab a hold of that anyway. So that that grabs in areas, maybe even on the corner, can get a place that you wouldn't normally get with your fingers. So, and I kind of use my fleshing knife to get the biggest stuff off first, and then it'll create some of those spots where you get a hold of that, and I just work it as far down as I can, hanging over my fleshing beam in big sections of just peeling that extra layer of skin off.
Now when you're fleshing, are you fleshing, which way are you fleshing?
I flesh like, I have mine laid with the neck to the tail in the middle of my fleshing beam, and I'm kind of fleshing down the hide like this. Like when I'm pulling my fleshing knife, I work from head to tail, but whenever I'm stripping that epithelial layer, it's more working down the hide. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it just seems when you go to cutting it, it kind of it wants to pull off that way, and I kind of go with whatever direction it is. Sometimes towards the tail, it'll pull back this way, and then as you get up to the rib and belly, that it just kind of wants to follow the contour of what the cow would be on the cow. So I found that in the middle of the rib cage and stuff, that wants to just peel straight down a lot. Towards the tail, it kind of starts going towards the flank, towards the tail, and up in the shoulder and neck, it kind of wants to peel forward. But I just kind of find those spots that want me to take a hold of them that are already bubbled out, and I'll just cut on it, and it'll create other spots next to it to get a hold of, and just work. I just take the biggest spots off I can at a time to be done with it, and then work on the next spot and the next spot. And if there's spots that don't want to come off, I just leave it. But I just take off as much of that thin extra layer as I can, just because I feel like it's good penetration for the hot water or for the lime, or to let go of that hair whenever you're doing stick and ashes or knife scraping. And I've just had to do a lot of hides by myself, because when Confer quit, I was like, that sucks. And then I found some hides, but they either came from South America and they were just not good hide that I could turn into something good. So I just started investing all my spare money instead of buying cool stuff to play with. I bought hides, and sweated over it and tried to find out what worked and didn't. And I just found no matter what process you do, that just taking your time and really fleshing it good just makes everything go smoother, and there's less to split off later on. You can kind of gauge. I cut out in disc. You could kind of gauge what your true thickness of your hide is, so you could better determine what you're going to make out of that particular hide. So I'm just going to pass some of these discs around. I've experimented just to find out if one hide's better than another or whatever, but this particular hide was a charlet that I had scalded 3 charlets, and it seemed like the top layer skin fell off whenever I took the hair off. And it just wasn't working out well. They were just totally ruined hides. So I thought maybe if it was something true or not, that the white skin might be take water more than maybe a darker hide or whatever. I just didn't have good luck and didn't want to take a chance on another one. So I dried it with the hair on a big part of a fence, and I just nailed it to the fence and let it get bone dry. And I was going to scrape it with a knife, but it flooded this summer, and I decided to go stake it out in the creek. So I took a bone dry hide that wasn't clipped yet and staked it out in the creek for 5 days. And I checked it a few times a day and pulled on it, and about the 5th day it was really starting to pluck out. Now, it didn't take the hair off, but I took it up to the fleshing beam and de-haired it more like you would with a limed hide. And this is the hide that came out of that. So just so you could see, this is a real clear hide, but this had no chemicals or no hot water or anything. This was dried bone dry with the hair on, stretched on a wall, then taken down and staked in the creek for 5. Now, a running creek. So this wasn't slow moving. This was a flooded creek. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but I've heard people doing it. And if people want to see how that turns out, here it is, and we could pass it around. So this is off of a gray hide, which was a Charlet Black Angus cross. And this was done with the stick and ashes method. We're going to do that tomorrow. And basically what I found with this stick and ashes is flesh them out good, leave the hair on. And Enrique's helped me with some pretty good ideas on that of just leave the hair full length so you have something to get a hold of with your stick. And I leave mine in the frame. I saw some people do videos of it on the internet, and I just had my hide moving anywhere because when I want the hair to come up, I want it to come off now. So I decided to just leave it in the frame dried and lay that whole frame down on the ground. And I put it down. I've tried concrete. You got to make sure it's smooth because it'll pick up divots from your concrete and you'll knock high spots off your hide. And so I put it on some plywood, and there wasn't a piece of plywood wide enough for the whole hide. So what I did is I put them on a horse mat, like those rubber mats for the stalls. And it's solid, but it has a little give to it. So if you hit a weird spot in your hide, it'll still let the hair come off, but it wouldn't knock the high spots off. So that's something that I kind of found. I had this, it was maybe 20 degrees out, and we couldn't ride that day, so I was trying to get out of the wind, and just by chance I laid that whole frame down right in front of where we saddled the horses and went to de-hairing it. It started coming off really easy, where on the concrete and the plywood, it didn't do it at all the day before very easy. So I just had started a spot, and I give up on this stick and ashes stuff. And I emailed Enrique a couple times, and he kind of told me leave the hair on and do some different stuff. And sure enough, on that mat, it worked good. So it's something you might think about if you have a stall mat or something to try it on. But it needs to be firm, but just make sure it's clean or smooth or whatever. And it might help you or might not to leave it in a round frame, like a frame, square frame, whatever. Just whatever it's dried in, lay it on the surface you want to use your stick and ashes on, just to stabilize the hide from moving. But this is it's 2 different colors because this thing was almost a black to almost a white from front to back. So this is that stick and ashes hide. obviously no other chemicals to it. It's just scrape the hair off with a stick. So, and I kind of owe a lot of it to Kevin Willie getting me started on it, but this is a scalded hide, and that would be, using the hot water. I kind of just I heard a lot of bad stuff about limed hides and yes and no, and I was just kind of in the mentality that maybe limed hides weren't going to be the best in the world to make braiding gear out of. And later on I found, well, anything's good if you do it right, but I didn't know how to do it right. So I came across this scalding method and I wanted to try it, a method that took the hair off kind of fast and efficient, but yet didn't chemically alter the hide. Now, some of the downsides are you can overcook the hide too. But it produces a real this is a real heavy disc, but I mean, you could see your hand through all these hides pretty easy. And one thing I did find is they'll have a little bit of color difference, but scalded hides, no matter what color they are, they kind of get a yellowy color to them. Some red hides and black hides with different, if you scrape it or if you do it with lime, they might have a little different tint to it, but they are pretty consistent in color no matter what color the hide is. But it comes off really fast. You just have to be careful not to gouge your hide when you're taking it off. And I just use a barrel on a few bricks and use a Brandon torch underneath it. And I just get my water going, and it takes around 30 minutes for me to get my water to temperature. But I found different parts of the country, people have said the temperature varies, like maybe 136 to 140. And I kind of found some hides that I got too hot thinking it'd go faster, and actually went from opening the pores to shutting them back down real quick. So I do mine around like 133 degrees or something like that, and I actually get my water up to a certain temperature above it, so when I put my hide in, that hide's going to cool your water off a little bit, and that it's still going to be just right for dehairing. And I kind of came up with an idea, and I talked to Steve Derricott about this, that I did it, and he might have already done it or whatever, but I was doing these hides in 20 degree weather at night after it was dark. And I decided I first did these hides, it would drop the water 20 degrees. And then it was too cold, then I had to get the temperature up, and it was just really messing up how the hair let go. So I decided to pre-warm these hides in a bucket of warm water right before I put it in. So these hides were cold, sitting out in the cold water or cold air all day. So I would put the hottest sink water I could in there, which was probably 90 degrees or 100 degrees or whatever, get that hide to kind of warm up a little bit, and then put them into the water. I only had a few degree change, and then it was just right for scalding. So if you have a colder climate and want to do it, you might keep that in mind, that that cold hide could really drop the temperature. And that being said, all of my hides I flesh one day, and then I don't dehair them scalding until the next day. So people say you can't scald them the day, it has to be a fresh hide. I just had read Vince Donnelly did them the next day, and I don't have time to do it all in one day. So I do all mine, and I fold them up and put them in like a trash can and put a couple towels over them and cover them up. And even in 20 degree weather, they don't freeze. And especially if I've done two hides, they kind of insulate each other. And just put those towels and then plywood, and I put a piece of railroad tie so dogs and stuff don't get into my good hide. But the next day I can get my water up to temperature, preheat those hides and go, and they always slip the hair. Now, I've never experimented a third day or whatever, but you can do hides the next day if you want. I'm sure if you did them the same day, they probably go easier, but you might.
Dennis Severe used to say about 48 hours is about the limit.
Sure. Did you have a question back there?
Are you putting the false bottom in your barrel?
No, I'm not. I mean, I stir from the time I put this is something too, is when you're heating up that water, if you're taking your temperature on the top, it's hotter on the bottom where the fire is. So I stir my water as it's heating up to get that truer temperature to my thermometer, because I don't want to submerge my thermometer to bottom. But I mix that water up like every couple minutes. I stir that water up and take my temperature off the top. And when it starts getting to that temperature, whenever I put my hide in, I keep stirring that hide just non-stop, and I'll just pick it up and pluck some hair, and I'll stir it, and then I'll pluck hair. Whenever it's coming out of the neck and butt really easy, that's when I pull it out. And most of the time, I'm on the cooler side, around 133 degrees or so, and it takes about 6 to 8 minutes to get it to dehair. And then I'll pull them out and I make sure. At first, I would get a couple spots real good, and I'd take them out, and it's really hard to get them to dehair like they do the first time you pull them out of the water, like to put them back in or whatever. I've just never had good results. So I want to make sure there's a lot of spots that pluck that hair out real easy before I pull it all the way out of the water, put it on my fleshing beam, and start dehairing it. So I don't have a false bottom in it, but I just want to make sure and stir that water up. And since I'm moving it, it's not sitting on that bottom long enough. Plus, this water at 133 degrees, I reach my hand down and grab the hide and pull it out. I mean, it's hot, but it's not like boiling water, you know. So, I don't think it's going to really burn a hide if you keep mixing it. Now, I mean, I could be wrong, and I don't want to let it sit there and try it, and that's probably a good idea to put a false bottom in it, but I haven't had trouble with it as long as I don't want to leave that hide, because it only takes 6 minutes or 8 minutes of my life. So you know, if you was going to sit it there and leave it, it might be a little different story, and you'd want to make sure and do that. Now, do you do a false bottom?
Justine told me that.
What I did was just cut the top out of my barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And I dropped a couple bricks down and just dropped the top all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
So that just raises it up a little bit.
Sure.
And Vince Donnelly told me to tie a different color string on the tail side and on the neck side.
Oh, sure.
So that you can tell when you're pulling that you're not just pulling from one side.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You know, you can see I pull from the blue side and I pull from the brown side, and it's coming off. Just so you can have a little bit better
No, that's a real good idea.
gauge that you did check all the way around.
Mm-hmm. No, that's good.
You just wad your hide up and throw it in there and kind of fold it up, or just...
I drop it in like this, and I mean, it's going to get wadded up, but I keep turning it over and try to make sure it's opened up on all edges. And I put a lot of water in mine. Like, I have a 55-gallon barrel, and I fill it for sure halfway. And I know I've seen a lot of people cut their barrels in half and get them a big hide dehaired still, but I just haven't experimented with less water enough. I just felt like, just like lime, if you don't have enough water in there, it doesn't make contact with enough of the surface area. It's not going to let go evenly across the whole hide. So somebody else that's done it, I mean, you've probably done more, and John and Steve might chime in, but I feel like having that, it takes a little longer to get more gallons of water hot, but it lets that whole hide kind of move around and all get to that same temperature to let it go.
We used to home butcher a lot of hogs and scalded.
Here's that
scrape them,
scalded hide.
And we'd immerse them in the tub to initially get them ready to scrape. And then as you're working, some of it may cool just a little bit, and you need to reheat it. And rather than put the whole hog back in the trough, we'd just collect up a bunch of hair that we've already scraped off, lay it on the stubborn spot, and then get hot water out of your tank and pour it over that, and that would bring that back up to temperature, and that'll go on scrape good.
I'll be darned.
I suppose that would work on a hide if you just hit a stubborn spot.
No, sure, that'd be good to know. Yeah. And that's
You're not-
what, if
you're not
anyone has...
clipping- You're not clipping your hide before you dunk it, right?
I do not clip my scalded hides, no. Because I need something to get a hold of, you know, to dehair it. So the only time for clipping is for scraping with a knife. I mean, even the stick and ashes, if you clip that hair, I tried it one time and I said, hey, Enrique, guess what? I clipped this hide and I want to do the stick and ashes, but it won't, it just slides across the hide. And you're like, yeah, well, there's nothing for the stick to grab a hold of. And it's like, well, yeah, so I knife scraped that hide and it turned out, but, so knife scraping's the only time I clip a hide. So, and I've done that. I've done some knife scraping too. I've pretty much done every method there is to do just to see if I could do it and see how it turns out, to have different kinds of rawhide around. And to me, like doing cow horse and stuff, I ride in hackamores and the two-rein and stuff. I want to see more like the guys that I ride with. If you give them a hackamore, the first thing they do is feel it. They won't even look at the braid. They could care less how pretty it is. If they go, oh yeah, it's got good life. And then they look, okay, now it's got a short nose button and a short length. And okay, yeah, the braid's pretty. But they could care less if their horse isn't going to give and carry it and it fit. You know, so to me, I did a bunch of different hides to see what felt good braided up. And I haven't braided a lot of scraped hide, but I've scraped a lot of hides with a knife just to see what the feel difference is. To me, sometimes it's my way to like relax and stuff, even though it's hard work. To get away from the barn is to sit there and scrape that hide. It's kind of good for you too. I mean, it's hard work, but when you get done, you flesh that hide, and you dehaired it, it's something to be proud of, you know, and that you did it all by hand. So yeah, there's quicker and faster ways to do everything, but sometimes the slow way is the good way, or, you know, to me, I don't have to, it's not my living. So to kind of think that I'm doing it the way the old school guys did it in a way kind of makes you feel good about it too. So doesn't make it the right way, but that's what we wanted to say about this gathering, is there's a lot of different ways, you know, there's a lot of different ways to skin a cat. I mean, if you're getting the job done, you're getting to the finished product, my way is not the way, and everybody has their own way of doing things. To just take, just like why I wanted to show you different hides is you might see something you like more than the other stuff. Just take what fits your style. I just think you kind of have to take from this clinic a little bit from everybody, and then, but in the end, you kind of just got to do your own thing. I just hoping after doing all these hides and experimenting, people could see maybe something that they want to work a little harder on, stick and ashes hide or a little of that, and then that's how you can go to, there's a bunch of guys here like John and Steve and Jeff have scalded a lot of hides too, that you can go ask those guys about that. Barty is helping me knife scrape better. I've really wanted to do that, a lot cleaner job of it, and I've seen a lot of his work that's been with it, and you could never tell it's knife scrape, but it has a good feel to it. So I'm going to go to somebody who knife scrapes a lot, or if there's somebody with stick and ashes, like I go to the people who are the best in that area. You know, I'm not going to go to somebody who's never scalded a hide. Hey, how do you scald a hide? You know what I mean? So if you just see something you like, go with that style, and then maybe seek those people who've done it a lot of times and made the mistakes this way and that way, so it helps you get to your goal faster kind of deal. Then, you know what I mean? But